Shrubs are so valuable in the garden, but if you've got one that's in the wrong place, you can move it, provided you follow a few simple rules. Now, the biggest consideration when you're thinking about moving a shrub is its size. There comes a point where it will be too big, too old established, too deeply rooted, and it's rather like getting an old age pensioner to move house. It's much more difficult, trust me, for OAPs to move house than it is for younger people. Now, any time between November and March is a good time to move deciduous shrubs, those that lose their leaves in winter because they're dormant. It's a great time to move roses, which can thrive on the smallest of root systems when you've dug them up. Provided you reduce the top growth, they will thrive. Evergreen shrubs prefer to be moved in very late summer, September, October, or in spring, March, April. This is a deciduous shrub. It's going to be a good time to move it right now, but I've got to give it the best possible chance of survival. Before you crack on with the secateurs and the spade, just think, do I really need to move this plant? Would it be happier if I reduced the canopy overhead to let more light in? In this case, this rubus, a kind of ornamental raspberry with double flowers, is being overwhelmed by the growth from this rose over the top. It gets shaded out. So now is a good time to move it to a place where it will get more light. The first thing to do with any shrub, this included, is to reduce the top growth. If I dig it out with a reduced root system and expect it to support all this growth that was there when it had a larger root system, I'm asking a lot of it. I'm taking out some older wood and leaving a lot of younger wood, which I shall then shorten slightly. Old and gnarled, bit like me. There are some shrubs you can be really quite dramatic with. If you're moving Hydrangea Annabelle, which are the ones I had around there with the dead heads on now, they put on almost all that growth in one summer. You can risk cutting them right back down to the ground. So I'm trying to make the whole thing less dense and leaving enough young stems with promising buds on them, making every single cut just above a bud. If I were cutting this back, it would be there. And that's the same when you're pruning absolutely anything, then that will grow away and there's no stem left to die back. So there we are, fairly dramatic, but the growth that I've left is all young and vigorous. I've got to get it up now with enough root to allow it to be transplanted with not too much discomfort. So, how close? Fairly, but not too far away, otherwise you'll never be able to lift the root ball. I'm going in about 10 centimetres from the centre of the plant and seeing what happens. Now you're going to be cutting through roots, don't worry too much. As long as you're not too close to the plant, there'll be enough left. What I'm trying to do here, my kids used to say that to me when they were little, what are you trying to do, Daddy? I'm not trying, I'm doing it. What I'm doing here is cutting through as much root as I can, allowing that distance from the centre of the root ball, leaving a root ball which I can then lever out the ground. It's moving now. Now that I've got down, I'm starting to go under, but again not too close to the surface. You want to leave it a bit of anchorage, and it's not a race against time. Take your time. If it's a bit strenuous, have a breather, or as we used to say, have a blow in between. Coming now. And that's it. Now you can see how much root I've got with that. Quite a bit. What I want to try and do is to avoid losing much of that soil. Now this is quite a thorny shrub, being a relative of a raspberry. It's got those little tiny thorns on that get in your fingers, so now that I have to manhandle it, I'm putting a pair of gloves on. And the thing to do is to pull it over on one side, and this is burlap sacking hessian. You can use whatever you want, use a plastic sheet if you want, but I just happen to have this, and I'm going to ease it underneath, roll that over onto that side, and then pull that out underneath it. Now this is the strenuous bit, the bit where you hope the root ball isn't so big that you can't lift it. There we are. Not a grain of soil lost. So I come here now to where I have dug the hole in a lovely open spot, apple tree here, but we're facing south. It gets good light here, and I'm checking now I've dug the hole the right depth. Use your spade as a measure. That root ball is almost exactly the depth of one spade blade, and that's what your hole needs to be. Don't bury them too deeply or too shallowly. Look at that. There's a stroke of luck. I must have known. The thing to do now is to just enrich that ground a bit. Not too much, particularly if you're on heavy soil and you fill it full of organic matter. It'll act like a sump, and all the water from miles around will drain into it, and your shrub will drown. But by just ameliorating your earth with a bit of, in this case, rose tree and shrub compost, just to act as a bit of an encourager for those roots to come out. Bit of it in the bottom, work it in to that soil so it's not pure compost, and I've got a bit that will mix in with that earth as we return it. Now I've got to get this out and into there, keeping as much of that soil around it as possible, which is where this hessian is still going to come into its own. Just hanging on to it for now as I lift it forward out of there onto the edge of the hole, and then lowering it in, but taking that bit there off, pulling it out of the way, it out of the way, lowering that in, letting it go over the other way, pulling that out here without losing too much, then straightening it up. Look at that. You can see now that it's at the right level. And now I'm going to fill around it with the soil that came out mixed with that bit of compost. And then loosen that edge of the hole. The important thing is that there are no air pockets. That's why I'm pushing my spade down. And before you finish, give it a really good welly in. I've made sure that the root ball is nestling at almost exactly the same level as it was when I dug it up. I think that'll do it now. Watering, nothing much to worry about during the winter at all. It'll be plenty moist enough. The critical time for water is in spring when growth is starting. Don't let it dry out then, or it will struggle because its roots won't have got out very far, and to support all that new growth that's coming, it will be thirsty. You don't need to turn it into a paddy field, just make sure it doesn't dry out, and then, little shrub, you should do very nicely. What have you got to lose? Give it a go. If you're looking for gardening tips like this, why not subscribe to my channel? You'll find ways of improving your garden, whatever its size, every week.